Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is the anime and chill podcast. We have a special episode today. We are going to talk to Josh, who is creating his first graphical novel. Abby, why don't you share a little bit more information about our guest today?
I am super excited to chat a little bit with this guest. You know, at the anime&chill podcast, we always talk about reading manga, and I think something that goes hand in hand with manga is comics. So we want to make sure that we give a big shout out to Legacy Comics and all of the work that they're doing, producing some top quality comics that are coming out this year, came out last year. I'm really excited to see big things from this company. So tonight we have Josh from Legacy Comics, and he'll be sharing some of his exclusive titles from Legacy Comics.
Oh yeah, and you are so spot on with manga and comics. Yes, they go hand in hand, and we're gonna dive into this comic that is coming out. So sit back, relax, everybody. This is gonna be a good show. So let's go. Let's get to it. And here we are. Let's go. We got Josh.
Hi,
There we
everyone.
go.
Please
Hey.
give Josh a warm welcome. Round of applause.
Yes, let's go.
We are very excited and very thankful to have you on here. I have so much respect for artists of any and all kinds. We've had cosplayers on, we've had painters, so many phenomenal people. I am very excited to have a comic artist on today. So, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. My day job is elementary art teacher. So I work with the little ones. I have,
There we go.
I'm on summer break right now, which is very quickly disappearing, but typically 4K through fourth grade, that's where I'm at. That's my wheelhouse. So the comic book thing is something that I've always wanted to do, but it just never opened up. Like I've always loved art. I've always loved drawing. I've always loved comics. I've always loved anime, manga, all that stuff. And about 10 years ago, met a guy named Dan Evans, who is the co-creator of all this Godfo universe stuff with me. And we actually met through music. We were both in and out of different bands, kind of around each other. And at the time, he had started a band called Blue Bolt. And he's like, man, we're just going to name this. Originally, it was going to be Blue Bolt X Red Racer, or so it was like anime as all get out.
That's
And
so cool.
Yeah.
and it was sort of like this amorphous prog punk thing. And he knew I was an artist. We were both into a lot of the same anime, a lot of the same comics and things. And he's like, I want you to draw this Blue Bolt character for T-shirts. And then it started turning into like this album we're recording. Do the art for us. And it's like, I want to have a story kind of that goes with it. And we started bouncing ideas around, and we started to realize there's something here. And over 10 years, it developed into this massive thing. And we finally are at the point where we're physically producing the stories and the comics and stuff that we've been working on for such a long time. So this is kind of a very long time coming, but it's also sort of a dream come true kind of moment for
Wow. So I'm sure in 10 years, if it started with one character, you said a universe, there probably has to be multiple storylines. So this has
It's
been
massive.
developing.
It's massive.
Oh,
It
okay.
is
Okay.
insane.
Wow, I love that. And we've got some sneak peeks of some of the art that you sent over, and these are gorgeous.
Yes.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate that.
I'm really I wish I had the talent and skill that you have. I'm curious, how long does one piece take you? Like if you're
I
creating one character from start to
I work really quickly. Not sloppy, but I work really fast. I'm not saying that to be bragging. It's just kind of how it's
Hey,
just how I roll. I don't.
there you go.
I'm just one of those that go to it and like I've been averaging working on the comic book lately. I've been averaging completing 4 pages a day, like
oh
full pages.
Oh, okay.
wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
And
yeah.
how many panels are in a page, you would say?
It depends. Like some pages may have 5 or 6 panels, and some it may just be like one big page that's all a splash page. It just really depends on where the story's going. I'm not one of those. One of the things I love about manga and that I've allowed to really influence the comic that I'm doing is that manga does not follow the traditional. Like you open up a Western comic book and you see just panel, 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 panel,
Yeah.
panel, panel,
Yeah.
and you open up Akira and you see 3 pages that doesn't have a word anywhere on it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
it just I kind of my approach to it is I work within panels, but I also will break out of the panel. Sometimes it may not have panels at all. It just depends. I just like the art to feel very lively, so it just kind of depends on
Nice.
what tone and what sort of action I'm wanting that page to communicate. So it just depends. Like I may get a page done in a couple of hours, or then I may have one page that takes me half a day to do. And it's just because there's so many characters on that page, and I want every expression to feel alive in some way and
Yeah.
interesting. And
Right.
I don't want to phone any of it in. So
You know
it
what it
really just depends.
sounds like I'm picking up on? It is pure storytelling, how you are conveying the story and you're not limiting yourself to like the panels you said. So if there is an emotion that needs to be conveyed and you choose to do it as a splash sheet, I feel like that is something that you would be able to do and create. That's really cool that you can kind of piece and visualize that and then create it.
It's funny because my Dan and I we created all the story together. We talk literally every day, tossing the hot potato back and forth with ideas. But he'll send me a script, and he'll send me like these little stick figure drawings of what he thinks like the page should be, and I look at them and then I throw them away and do my own thing. But I always approach my panels and my pages as almost like cinematography, like trying to see how can I, what's the best angle, what's the most interesting way I can show. I can show everything just sitting there, or I could show it from way up above and there's something in the foreground, and like what makes an interesting composition is what matters. So like I'm trying to tell the story in as interesting way as possible.
Wow. Just
Trying to
from
make
some of
something I want to read.
yeah, that's of
Yeah.
course.
Ultimately, yes. Ultimately, that's where we're at. So when you got started with this, what was that first character you guys had in mind? Okay, this is the character we're gonna start off with, or was it like just a bunch of like, okay, I got started with this one, kind of jumped to another character, or was just a main
Okay.
character you started with?
Well, character wise, the first character was Blue Bolt, who looks like sort of a cyberpunk angel. She
Okay.
was the character that their band is based on, which along with all these comics, they're gonna be releasing albums from Blue Bolt that follow the
Whoa,
storyline too.
nice.
But it started with Blue Bolt, and we started trying to figure out what is this world that she lives in, what created this character, and more than character focus to begin with, it was Dan and I think about a lot of this. We see the world a lot of the same ways, so we have a lot of the same philosophies and ideologies. And So a big piece of the storytelling for us is, let's think about what would a world look like where the most powerful people, the people who have all the control the wealth, that control the world, kind of maybe behind the scenes. What if they could create a god that not only did they make their own god, they also control it, and through it they can control every single person. So it's this idea that basically this Illuminati-esque order of elites have created a machine that they combine with a person, and they call it God. And basically, it sends out a signal. And if you are connected to Wi-Fi, or if you anywhere near a device, pretty much every person in the world at this point, their intentions and their will, they can channel through this person, and you will do and think and say whatever they want you to, and you'll think it's your idea. You won't even know that you're being controlled. And so the whole idea of the Godfo universe is that this being that they've created, what if they actually succeeded in making a god, and what if it didn't obey? And then and basically our idea is that there's a god who isn't really a god, but he has godlike powers, and when he transcends, it destroys the entire world. And our story spans thousands of years of people reacting to this divine being in different ways. And if you ever realize that it's not what they say it is, and you stand up and say, this is this thing, I'm not going to worship this thing, or I'm not going to obey this thing, you're labeled Godfo. And that's why it's called the Godfo universe. You become an ideological terrorist. You lose everything. You become public enemy number one for not towing the line. And we've seen, like, our culture lately, we see how quickly you can be canceled for anything. What if instead of just being canceled, what if you put out a tweet that the order doesn't like? And let's say for example, the order plugs up their God machine and says, all right, let's just make everybody think that this whole subsect of people don't need to exist anymore. And just with the push of a button, it's genocide.
Done.
What?
Oh my God. Okay.
So I am so intrigued.
Oh snap.
So the setting kind of came first, and then we took that big idea and said, all right, within this, let's think about the natural progression of people living in this world. So we have these different eras, and I think I sent y'all a timeline of these different eras.
Right, I'm seeing.
They're really far separated, like they're spread far out. And the cool thing is you'll be able to jump in at any of those different spots and have a standalone story that's interesting, that you can enjoy by itself, but it's all connected too. So if you want to dive deeper into the lore, you'll see things that happen way back here that affect something 1,000 years later in a big way.
Right. So I'm seeing the timeline that you're talking about: year 0, Birth of the Fallen, the Biophile era, the Black Star era. And in each of those, there are several different spots where it looks like each book comes out. And that way, like you said, if you want to dive deeper, you go, what happened before this? Where did this idea come from? You can kind of pick and choose. And I guess for devout readers, somebody who's really into it, they can eventually say, oh, I prefer the Birth of the Fallen era, or I prefer the Black Star era. That's really cool. And I enjoy that because I'm a sucker for organization, and I like being able to mentally go, I know that happened during this time, and you can kind of compact all of those characters and that era all in one. That is really cool how you have that set up.
Well, our plan was, and some of these are comics, some of these are going to be novels, some of it's going to be, there's just a lot of different things that we hope to eventually put out. But our plan was never have to retcon, never have to reboot. So we figure out the whole story first. You'll see on the timeline, there's a comic called Biophile Kolga. We've got 100 issues already written.
What?
Yeah, that's
Oh,
we it's all the way scripted. That entire series is fully written. And like the Black Star era is going to be novels. We've already written the first novel, and the next 3 novels are already like outlined. So like we don't
Oh,
ever.
yeah, you guys are putting in
I
work.
am so excited for so all of this happened, this universe, the era, did that all come together in that 10-year span that you knew the co-creator?
Yeah, and honestly, the idea for Kolga, the biophile stuff, like a lot of that stuff came together in like the past 2 or 3 years, really. But like we've been gradually building to those things, and like we'd have this idea of, oh, what if we had like a short story here, and then that short story turned into a whole era.
Yeah.
And so like and ultimately, like, what if it's successful, which hopefully this is successful and people dig what we're putting out.
Yeah,
Eventually,
I
what
think
we'd
so.
love to do is create a pathway for if people want to write fan fiction inside those eras. There's going to be certain criteria, and if your fan fiction meets that criteria, we'll make it canon. Like you
wow.
might create
See?
a character that will show up in something.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
I mean,
That
that's
I'm a
way down the
sucker.
line, but
that
that's something we're
even
hoping
though
to do. It's
you
kind of like
talking
we wanted
about
to.
it, that's amazing how you guys are inviting the reader in to input maybe something, and if it fits, you guys are with it. Oh man, that is yes.
Well, I mean, imagine if Star Wars had done that. How
Oh my,
exciting that would be.
oh
You know,
my god.
but on the Star Wars, they released decades worth of expanded stuff and then turned around and threw all of it out and said that's just Legends now. And like what we're trying to do is not ever have to throw stuff out. Like not ever have to come back and fix it. So it's kind of like we want to come out the gate with, if Star Wars, if New Hope had come out back in the 70s and at the same time, so had the prequels and Knights of the Old Republic and the High Republic, like if all of that was already figured out before New Hope came out. Yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to do.
Right. Well, totally not on topic, but off topic. I am so upset that Star Killer is not canon. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters, but I don't think anybody would stand a chance in the sequels if Star Killer was still around. So I think that's probably why they had to ixnay him. But that's cool that you have pretty much set up the outline, and I like that you said would meet the criteria, because this gives everyone the opportunity to develop an OC, and that's something that I'm seeing more within the anime and comic universe, that people are creating characters that are within a universe but still look like they fit, It's nothing too off the wall or too creative. It's definitely something that you can tell the fandom enjoys, and it's always a nod to or even a direct interpretation of these things. So major props that you're already willing to invite that and create that.
Yes, major props. That is amazing, because that's going to just spark everything. It's just going to spark more interest, more stories.
Not me already thinking of a character so I can cosplay something new.
I'm like, oh,
you want your fans to feel a certain degree of ownership. That's what matters. It's not just mine and Dan's world. We want it to be everybody's world at some point in time.
Yes.
Like we want you to feel like this is a place. And so we purposefully within those eras, there's so much room left for those sandboxes to be there for people to play in eventually. Obviously not yet. We got to get the framework out there first, but like the day will come when we'll say, all right, guys, send us what you got. Whatever you want to do, come play with us.
We got time, Abby. We have time.
I am so cool.
Yeah.
This is like I'm blown away. This is amazing. So I kind of want to dig a little bit deeper. You've clearly been an artist for a long time. This is something that very much so brings you passion and joy. It's what you do as a career. Art is something that is part of you at this point. What was it? What was something that sparked that? What brought the pencil to paper first, and what really kind of said, well, I can do that, and you started creating that. So tell us a little bit where your artist universe began.
Well, I always loved. I always loved comic books as a kid. I grew up on Marvel and DC. Always loved that stuff. Um, and so I would draw, try to draw the characters, and then I'd make my own little comics and stuff as a kid. When I got to college, I learned to appreciate a lot more, uh, classic art, classical painters and things like that. Learning about anatomy and all that stuff become fascinating with, trying to make people that look like real people. And I don't know, man. It's just in it. It's just there. You see things that are inspiring and you feel like you want to do something. I don't want to do exactly that, but I'd love to do something that makes somebody else feel the way that made me feel. Like if I can put out a comic book that somebody will read and it'll make them feel the same way I felt the first time I saw the end of Evangelion.
I haven't seen Evangelion, so I'm going to trust your word on that because you're like the second or third person that has pushed Evangelion and how said incredible it is. I know.
Yeah, you need to get on that.
Blasphemer, forgive me. I am sorry. I've heard that it's really good. So, but being a fan of an anime watcher, something that you can identify, this made me feel something, so that you want to inspire or trigger that into other people. That's admirable, and
yes,
I would assume that feels like a tall order, but it seems like art just comes so naturally to you, and the fact that you have your own guidelines and everything set up ready to go, it almost just feels like just a gentle little tap. Just go, begin creating.
Well, Dan and I both, one of the things about the Japanese influence for us, Western storytelling is there's so many archetypes for the hero, and there's so many, like there's when's the last time you saw something from Marvel or DC that felt like the stakes were actually real? Like somebody dies, they're not really dead. They kill Superman, Superman's going to come back with a mullet.
Right.
Like there's never that sense of if this character dies, they're not coming back. Like when you look at an anime or a manga, though, like you don't feel that safety when you're reading that story. Like when you read Berserk and the eclipse happens and it starts getting to that, you don't feel like, oh, it's scary, but they're going to be okay. When Japanese storytelling is so fatalistic, because they had 2 atomic bombs dropped on them. They suffered an actual apocalypse and had to rebuild. So everything that they write, even now, like even decades later, Akira, everything you read that comes from Japan, there's still like a mushroom cloud, impact on it.
You are so right.
Yes, spot on, 100.
So we want the emotional stakes in these stories to feel like I don't want anybody to feel, oh, my character I like is safe and they're going to be fine, because they might not be. Like things may not work out. Things might not have the happy ending. Things
Oh yeah.
I never processed it that way until just right now. I cannot tell you how many times has a character in an anime or a manga had a 1-episode spotlight and you already knew that was the end for them. You knew that it was coming. And identical, you're right, Western, oh, we know Spider-Man's just in another universe,
He'll be back because there's money to be made.
You'll be back.
They got to sell toys.
Right, and things like Attack on Titan, how many characters did we lose in that? Even in Sailor Moon, we were worried about losing some of those characters and never seeing them. You are 100% spot on. So I'm so curious now to dive into this Godfo universe, simply because, as much as I hate to admit it, that feeling of I'm losing this is gone, it almost pulls you in more because you don't want to lose them, but the story of how they're being lost is unlike anything we've seen.
Let me ask you this. because you're anime fans. You know exactly what I'm talking about when you see those moments that show up in an episode where somebody, like a character that you've been watching for years, gets their arm ripped off.
Yep.
Or something bites their head off. Think about the feeling you had when you saw that. And, everybody, when Infinity War came out, Thanos does the snap, everyone turns to dust. You had so many people like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I didn't leave the theater feeling the same way I feel when I'm watching an anime when something like that happens, because I know, Iron Man's going to bring them back. Like, they're going to be fine. Even my wife was like, I can't believe it. I said, they'll be back. They're fine. They'll be back. But
oh my God.
when you're watching Berserk and or anything anime, Attack on Titan, dude, there's so many points in that series where like you feel like your guts like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I don't want to watch this,
yes,
but I have to watch this. And we won't, not that we're trying to be bleak, because there's going to be lighthearted stuff. There's going to be action. There's going to be humor in our books, but we're not going to shy away from stakes either.
Wow. You know what's coming to my mind throughout all of this when we're describing this? I don't know if you've watched Demon Slayer, but there's a character you have. So you are hitting the nail on the head with Rengoku, like his loss and how pivotal it was in that story. We know, maybe we'll get a flashback here and there, and it's
he's gone.
He is
he's
gone.
not coming back.
Never
he's not coming back.
Okay, I'm sold on Godfo. I was interested at first because the artwork, y'all, for anybody listening or watching, I need you to understand how beautiful some of this is. I cannot tell you how much I am so excited just to look at some of these pictures.
Yes,
the detail,
definitely.
And I appreciated when you said that you went to anatomy classes. Like, there's one character here where it's a back shot of them, and you see a tushy, but how spot on is the muscle definition in this is just incredible to see, and on paper in a book is going to be beautiful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Most definitely. Yes. I'm intrigued. I'm already sold on this. This kind of feels like also like, like an open world game where you create your character and you could die. You could do all that. And so it's just like you plug in and oh man, I'm excited. I'm excited for this.
So I need to know, you've been working with Legacy Comics. How many books are available from any ones that you have created, and more specifically the Godfo universe? And where can people get copies of them?
Okay, so the first thing I've done with Patrick for Legacy, I did it a few months ago, is a one-shot called Sarita. It is a spinoff from Condry, which is like their kind of their launch title. I did that mostly so Patrick could see if I could hit a deadline, and I can. So that was our kind of testing the waters thing. So the first actual Godfo product that's available for pre-order right now is Apollyon 20XX, which timeline wise is very beginning of the series. This is before anything else happened. Apollyon 20XX is not far away from our current time, and it's very near future. It's the beginning of everything. We've released a 6-page ash can, which is like just a prologue, that introduces you to one of the main characters of that story, and that is available for pre-order right now and is coming out physically and digitally this month. So you can go to legacycomics.com.
Okay.
And that's coming out this month. We're hoping as soon as the books are printed, we're hoping Dan and I are going to try to hop in on some Comic Cons, do some book signings, as much as possible. And then tentatively, the first volume of Apollyon 20XX, hopefully in the spring or either late spring, early summer of next year, and Kolga will be coming out after that. And y'all can expect about like 150 to 200 page book when that first volume comes.
Yes.
Apollyon 20XX. Okay.
So Out of curiosity, you can reveal as much as you like. Kolga, I'm looking at these images here. This looks like a female character. She looks kind of badass.
She's
Would you
rad,
say
dude.
she's would you say she's somebody just surviving in this post-apocalyptic world, or is
All
she a
right, so
villain?
Kolga is a woman who, as a young person, she was raised by men who realized the corruption behind the scenes in the world that they were living in, and these men created basically a rebellion, an underground rebellion called the Biophile Initiative, and the whole purpose of that was to find a way to break out from the power of the religious establishment and the government and the aristocracy, because they realized how corrupt it was. And ultimately, the goal of the biophiles, because during that period, all electronics, all powered devices and things are powered through what the church calls the God voice, which is this signal that's coming out from this God being that they created. And it can be manipulated, and people can be manipulated through it. So these biophiles realize that the powerful people are manipulating the population. So they start creating devices that have a different power source that the church can't listen to. That, it's this underground movement. And ultimately, the biophiles' goal is to leave this planet behind, which they will succeed at. But Kolga does not get to go with them. She's left behind. So Kolga, by the time we see her in Biophile Kolga, that comic book series, she is an old woman. She's like 80-something years old. She just fought what she thought was going to be her last battle and that she was going to die. And instead, through things that I'm gonna spoil, she was given a new life, a second life. Basically, she's young again, but she's lived all this stuff, and now she thought she was gonna go down in flames, and here she is with a young body again. And
back with
so,
a vengeance.
Yes. Okay.
yeah. So the idea is Kolga, and with all of the stuff in her past, all of the anger, all of the bitterness, basically her father figures are gone. Everything she's worked for, she feels like has fallen apart. So she's angry, and she just wants to burn it all to the ground. And that's where we start. That series is with this character who she knows more than anybody else knows about the real face of the world. And she's all about exposing it and standing up to it. And she just wants to watch. She just wants to burn it all down. So that's kind of the storyline for Kolga. There's some very interesting characters in that series that I think everybody's going to love. I purposefully tried to draw a character that people would want to cosplay as and would be able to cosplay as fairly easily. I'm not ashamed to say that. I want to see Kolgas.
There you go. You want to see the Kolgas.
But she's smart.
So
she's
badass. Like there is no other word
like
just from
purple.
these images.
Yeah. Okay.
I am shocked. So, for anybody who's listening and maybe cannot see, Kolga is this dark-haired woman. She's got purple eyeshadow, purple lipstick. She's got this yellow, mean look in her eye. You can look at it and see she is on a mission. You can look and just tell right off the bat. And there's another one here where she's got on a long trench coat, black boots, black pants, brown boots. A nice white, almost like fluffy Victorian kind of top and a big thick brown belt. It almost looks very, I don't want to call it old timey because that's not going to put the right words behind it. Josh, what is the word that I'm looking for? How would you visually describe it?
There's a little bit of a steampunk aesthetic to it.
Yes.
There you go.
It's not full-blown steampunk in the sense that like you're not going to see a bunch of weird like mechanical devices on people's faces or stuff. Like it's not steampunk, but it's definitely a Victorian England, but with
Yep.
fantasy sci-fi elements.
Right. It's like
Hopefully, it feels unique and familiar at the same time.
it does. It is very, I wanted to say steampunk, but it's steampunk without all the cogs and the wheels and the
Exactly.
All of that. Yeah.
extra
Exactly.
bits and bobs. It is what you would assume somebody surviving in a world would wear that has to move quickly.
Mhm.
They can't have all of this stuff
They
with
can't have all that
them.
extra stuff on them. Nah, she's trying to move.
Phenomenal character design
Thank
already
you.
right off the
Appreciate
bat. I
it.
am
Oh
excited to
god,
see.
yes.
So count me in on that one as well.
Yes.
So just to kind of start wrapping it up and figuring it out, I just want to know. You said you've watched Demon Slayer. You mentioned Akira. You mentioned Evangelion. Um, Overall, what is something in anime that inspires you to continue to create this day? You have your world you're creating, but what's something that you see that you go like, oh my gosh, I want to see more of that.
Okay. Um. Well, for one thing, scale. Um. And that's one of the things that we're being very careful with as we plan the story is our characters are going to fight bigger and bigger and bigger villains. So scaling that power up in a believable way, and for the villains and for our heroes, is something that anime does really, really well. Like you look at My Hero Academia and look at the first season, what Deku's able to do versus what he can do now. And I remember being amazed when he was at the tournament and he can do something with one finger. Like
Mm.
it's that power scaling, magic systems that make sense, emotional stakes that make sense. Because anime will take its time and show you, your character just sitting in a field looking at a flower for half an episode, which is something that American stuff would never do because they don't have the time.
Right.
And ultimately, and when Dan and I looked at it, and we wanted to approach this stuff, as an American manga, basically, because when you look at the comic book industry, Marvel, DC, these kinds of companies, manga outsells all of them every
Yeah.
year. The Demon Slayer manga by itself outsold everything DC and Marvel
Everything.
put together could not outsell that one title. If you go
Oh,
to Barnes and Noble, you'll see like one little shelf of comics and then three whole
of
like
manga.
sections of manga.
All
So
manga.
obviously people respond to one storytelling approach more than another. Um, so I think part of it is that manga doesn't pander to people. It has representation without being pandering and
Hmm.
cheap about it. If a
Right.
character, and that's something that Dan and I want to do too. If we have a very, as you get into all of the different eras, there's a range of races, there's a range of genders, and we're not ever going to write something that we do just to get points. It's just whatever serves the story. If the character happens to be this, that, or the other, as long as it's a good character and it makes sense for the character, then it'll be whatever it'll be. But we're not trying to ever like curry favor.
Right. I
Hmm.
like that.
So
I
Yeah.
can say there has been times in the Star Wars universe where I'm like,
yeah,
why would they make that person an alien? That's so bizarre. That doesn't
what's the
need to be an alien. Or like, why does that have to be another human? You could make it some space creature. You're literally in space. So I like that. And again, what comes into factor for all of this is you're leaving the universe open at some point for fans to create their own. So imagine all of the spices and flavors that will be able to come in then.
yeah,
Definitely.
it's
Definitely.
exciting. I mean, I'm hoping that 5-10 years from now, what we've created was going to be something that's got more life than we ever could have imagined it would have.
Definitely. You can see this going there. Again, just anticipation, the way you guys are coming together with the story, with the characters, and then just leaving it open for others to come in. And that gives, again, it just adds on to the story, another character. And it's amazing because maybe somebody who's trying to get into the comic book scene can get in with you guys, and you guys are
Mhm.
opening the doors for that. So that's a big, big opportunity. So everybody, y'all look out for this. Y'all go follow them. y'all go show them support because not everyone's gonna give you the door open to come in, and
Yeah.
so appreciation,
Yeah.
Well,
appreciation. That
and
is-
it's gonna be grassroots. It's independent, so it's one of those things that if it's successful, it's gonna be because people are willing to step in on the ground floor and help make it happen, get it in front of as many
yes,
eyes as possible. And but I know it's ambitious, but I can tell you we've got where'd I go? There we go.
There you
there
are.
you go, there you go.
No, we got enough content already to keep people entertained for decades. So like if we can
Is
get
that
it the framework, if we can get it started and get it in people's hands, and once you get the first volume of Apollyon, when you get that first volume of Kolga and you share it with as many people as possible, if we can get that ball rolling, there's no telling where this is going to go.
well,
Absolutely.
we are gonna do our parts because, like, again, just as appreciation as fans of comics, manga. Again, this is something that I can guarantee I'm gonna be on this, hooked on
Yeah.
this. So believe me, we're gonna get the word out about this, about everything that's gonna come out from you guys, and so support everything. We're gonna put the voice out there and make sure people
Awesome.
know about this because, again,
Awesome.
it's meant for everybody to go and read and get into it. So it's just like we're gonna do our part and spread the word because, again, this is gonna be so good. So I'm already intrigued. So I'm just ready to get the copy and just
Right. Yeah. Count
It's
me
coming.
in. So
It's
I was
coming.
like, I'm ready.
do me a favor and remind everyone again where we can find these copies because I know that I'm going to want to order one as soon as I hop off.
All right, so yeah, legacycomics.com. It's comics with an X instead of a C. Legacy Comics. If you go there, they have a pre-order bar down at in their menu, and you can find our book. You can find all the other really cool books that we've got coming out from Legacy. There's something for everybody.
There's
We
a
There we
got
go.
lot. They
we got
There we
something
really
go.
for
have a
everybody.
lot.
So yeah, just check out all of our titles and just be on the lookout because Legacy's coming for you.
There we go.
And
We're
Yeah.
before
coming
we
for you.
go, let us know which titles you have worked on so that we can target you and your work.
All right, specifically the Sarita one shot, which I did the art for. Patrick Hickey Jr. wrote it. I did the art for that, and then the Apollyon 20XX Ash Can issue
Okay.
0.
There we
So
go.
exciting. Josh, thank you so much for your time. I am so glad I got to pick your brain about this.
Yeah,
because
absolutely. Thanks for
I
having me.
am
Here. Same
No, the pleasure is mine. I'm sold. I'll be very honest. I am not the biggest comic book collector, but I do enjoy supporting small independent businesses, and the fact that this story is something right off the bat that has captured my attention.
right?
I cannot wait to share this with everyone.
Yes,
We'll
definitely.
be in touch. We'll make sure that because we're gonna want feedback too. So definitely let us know what you think of the Ash Can. What you think of if I happen to send you a sneak peek of some stuff.
There we go. Yes,
Let me know.
yes. Sneak peek is always good. It's always
Right,
good.
right. And listen, my lips will
Exactly.
be sealed.
Exactly.
Yeah. It stays right here. Sneak peeks and stuff. It's all good. We're gonna stay right here.
Excellent. Thank you again so much for your time for joining us here on the Anime Chill
Thank
podcast.
you for having me.
Yeah. Everyone, please go give my friend Josh a follow. You can find
Yes.
Legacy Comics on Instagram and on their website. We'll make sure to have all of those links down below. Feel free to give us a follow at the Anime Chill Podcast on Instagram, our YouTube, and we will definitely provide all of the information that we have for Legacy Comics there as well.
Yes. So definitely everybody go show them some support because, again, that's what it comes down to is support. So if you're a comic book reader, manga reader, or you're just barely kicking off to get into the comics, definitely go support them and check them out. Check them out. It's gonna be amazing. I'm excited. Yes.
All
I'm
right.
excited.
Well, we always do something special here on the Anime and Chill podcast. The way we close out, we always want to send a special and message out to everyone in the anime universe. So you're welcome to join in with us on this. We like to wish everyone lots of peace, love, and anime.
Anime and also comic books.
And comics.
And comics. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you again for this. It's been a pleasure, and we will all see you all on the next episode.
Peace out, everybody.